Hello, it is 12 a.m. Right now, and I am going to be doing my English presentation because I decided, along with uploading it on the thread, I also wanted to record it and present it as if I was in class because I miss school. I don't think I would have ever said that before, but I miss school, and during these finals week, I'm feeling very stressed because a lot of my teachers don't post my grades. Well, my English teacher does, but math and programming and all. I'll just get to the presentation, and I chose William Shakespeare mostly because of the fact that I used to perform Shakespeare plays a lot, especially in fourth, fifth, and sixth grade, and after that too. But I really enjoy his work, and I really enjoy reading Shakespeare. I'm one of the few people in class who actually enjoyed reading Shakespeare in like elementary school and middle school, and openly enjoyed it. Um, so yeah, let's get to the presentation. Just make sure everything's working fine. Yep, that looks fine. Alright, so I just named my presentation The Life of William Shakespeare, a biography by Caleb Brady. So his early life, not many people know about Shakespeare's early life, mostly because, well, at the time he was practically nobody. Um, he was baptized. Records of him being baptized were on April 22nd, 1564. So most people believe that his birthday is on April 23rd. And if that's true, that means that Shakespeare died on his birthday in 1616, meaning he died when he turned 52 years old. And I don't know about you, but well, maybe some people, mostly teenagers, would like to die on their birthday. That was a really edgy joke. Sorry about that. Um, he was the son of John Shakespeare and Mary Arden. I don't know how to pronounce that. I had different sites saying different things, but I stuck with saying that he had seven siblings. He had two older sisters. Um, if no other site would say um, well, the other side I looked at said he had three younger brothers, but that would just leave him with five siblings. But the other side didn't say what the other siblings were. The other five siblings were. But his two older sisters died when they were infants, meaning that Shakespeare himself was the oldest child, like me. Um, so up to like his childhood, not much known about it. Like nobody really knows where he went to school. Like people believe that he went to school because of his education and his writing capabilities. Um, but besides that, like not much is known about him. He probably helped out his father and lived at home. But when he turned 18, he married a woman named Anne Hathaway, and it's not Anne Hathaway, the actor. When I first saw that name, I was like, that name's familiar. I looked it up and I was like, I found out that there's a famous actor. I'm blanking on what movie she's in, but she's in a bunch of stuff. Um, but yeah, it's another woman named Anne Hathaway. But funny enough, people say that her husband resembles Shakespeare. So you can Google like Anne Hathaway's husband, and you'll see people comparing him to Shakespeare. But Anne Hathaway at the time was 26, while Shakespeare was only 18. Um, and their wedding was actually rushed, and this is because Shakespeare got Anne pregnant before they were married, and that was a big no-no at that time and age. Um, but it turned out for the best. They stayed married. I believe, she lived 7 years longer, 7 more years after he died. And they had three children. The first was Susanna, who was born 6 months after their wedding. Um, she was the shotgun wedding child. And then Hamnet and Judith. And Hamnet and Judith were twins, but Hamnet died at 11, which is like not uncommon for the times. but it's still upsetting thing to have happen. So uh, there was a there was a time like after him having children and before he got into the playwriting business, which was just undocumented yet again. People called this 7-year gap in his life. But in 1592, he appeared on the map again, practically, at his age of 28. Um, and it, he is observed writing and acting in plays. He published plays, and probably people believe he even published plays before that time. Um, but in 1592, he started to gain some traction, and he caught the eyes of many famous people. Um, yeah, people like publish poetry and publish poetry in their name of them, of like famous dukes and stuff, dukes and earls, I think. Um, but by 1597, 5 years like after he was known to start writing and publishing and acting, he was in an acting group called the King's Men, which is the picture you can see on screen now. That's his little acting group. Um, but 5 years into like his career, he already wrote 15 out of his 37 known plays, and the only reason that we know his plays today is because the people who performed them saved copies of them. When he died, well, practically all the copies of his plays disappeared except for the ones that the actors kept. And there were 37 of them, two poems, and then he has this collection of sonnets. Um, but that's like an average of 3 plays a year, which I don't know about other people, but I think that is really impressive. Although I guess back then you had quite a bit more free time on your hands, but still, 3 quality plays per year, like especially at the quality of Shakespeare, that's really impressive. And some of those plays, within like his first 5 years of his career, are Romeo and Juliet, which practically everyone knows, and one of my personal favorites, A Midsummer Night's Dream, which I was in 6th grade. I played the Fairy King Oberon. That doesn't sound good on my part, does it? He in the same year when he published the what was it 15 plays. He bought a house in his hometown, Stratford, which was about a 4-day horse ride to London. It was like a 3 to 4 day horse ride. Because of this, he would have to divide his time between London, where his plays were performed and where his work was done, and his family at home. Um, some people say it was like a 50-50 divide, like going every few months or something. Some people say he only went during Lent, of the 40-day period of Lent, to visit his family, and the rest of the time he spent in London. Um, but by the year 1599, Shakespeare and some of his business partners, some I believe were from the acting group, the Kingsmen, purchased their own theater, which became the Globe Theater, which I'm pretty sure a lot of you have heard about if you've taken English before. And that's it in the background. It's a really nice theater, actually. I might visit it someday. Also, another little fun tidbit: the Kingsmen, um, they originally went under another name. I can't think of the name right now, but they changed their name to the Kingsmen once the king at the time got crowned. So they kind of like rode on the fame of a king being crowned at the time, and that's how and people rec- came to recognize the name because of that, and they became one of the most famous acting groups of their time. Um, and he also purchased real estate leases in 1605, which he in return doubled in value, and he it technically made him an entrepreneur. And I also saw some other entrepreneur stuff he did. I think it was rice or wheat or grain, one of those. But he would sell those. He would farm those, like hold them in silos and sell them at extremely inflated prices. And uh, people believe he was Shakespeare also dodged his taxes. So if the IRS come after you, just tell them you're trying to be like Shakespeare. So now some of his work. Uh, Hamlet was written sometime between 1599 and 1602. It was published the next year, and it was first performed in 1609. But this is what most people believe to be one of Shakespeare's best works, including one of his best works, including I have a few others on my list. And it's the "To Be or Not to Be" quote. About the one about the it was about a son of a king, a prince, whose father died. The father came to him as ghost and told him, hey, this I think it was the uncle or something, but the guy who's now in my place in the throne poisoned me. He killed me. So Hamlet then confronts the guy who's now married to his mom, um, and he confronts him. I think it's through a play where he acts out some guy betraying his friend by poisoning him and stealing his place and stealing his wife. And yeah, and it's also where the famous line "To Be or Not to Be" comes from. And it was performed like a whole bunch of times during his life, and it's still performed to this day with a lot of success. Julius Caesar, on the other hand, was published in 1599 and was performed for the first time in the same year. A lot of people believe that this play was kind of like Shakespeare's own like fear coming out, or like a warning towards the Queen of England, who was refusing to name her heir at the time, and similar to how Caesar refused the crown, and soon after that, he was assassinated. And after he was assassinated, and since he wasn't in possession of the crown, there was a power gap, because people were still expecting him to take the crown. And then there was a gap, and war broke out. And Shakespeare feared that if the queen didn't announce her heir, and she died without having anyone to replace her, a war would break out, like a civil war would again break out because of the power gap. So yeah, on April 23rd, on his birthday in 1616, he passed away and was buried in his in Stratford. Um, Ben Jonson said that Shakespeare was not of an age, but for all time. And yeah, I believe that. Personally, I believe that because even plays written hundreds of years ago, I still love to read today. And I close with what I used Hamlet and Julius Caesar and the sonnet at the end. I'm going to be using it for my writing part of the assignment. So I'm just going to I'm more analyzing the sonnet, and I'm not going to really analyze it here, but I'm just going to repeat the sonnet here. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely, more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's leash hath too short a date. Sometimes too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance of nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy internal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou art, nor shall death brag thou want'st in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou grow'st, um, so long as men can breathe, or eye can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. It's a nice little poem. I enjoy it. So yeah, that's my presentation. It's my works cited and the images I used. Yeah, so a little nice picture of Hamlet there for you. Oh god, that went way over 5 minutes. I'm just looking at the time right now. But I hope you enjoyed this. And it's been nice getting to know you guys this semester. Good luck with Corona and finals, I guess.